Welcome to the UTG at Work podcast. I'm Deacon Mike Houghton. I'm the Executive Director of an apostolate called UTG at Work. Our mission is to help women and men joyfully live their faith and witness to Christ in the gospel in the workplace. I'm happy to be with you as we explore the Sunday gospel in ways that help people who work. You can find this podcast as well as helpful articles, videos, and other materials on our website, which is utgatwork.org. You can also subscribe to this podcast through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting sites. This weekend we celebrate the fifth Sunday of Easter, and our gospel is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. When my wife and I first bought our home in Bruce Township a few years ago, our lot was overgrown with weeds and several trees that hadn't been addressed in many years. While the home was newly constructed, the grounds around it were, shall we say, native. In fact, we didn't even have a driveway yet. It was quite a shock to both of us when we found out just how expensive landscaping had become since we had bought our last house. Our home is built in an area that used to be an orchard. Some years ago, the orchard was subdivided into some fairly large plots of land. We're on 2.5 acres, and we love it. It very much has a country feel to it. We didn't realize it at first, but we had 8 pear trees on our property. As it turns out, there were more than 8, but hold that thought for now. So we hired people to take out all the weeds, to put in a deck, patio, sprinklers, and some grass seed, and to prune back the trees. There were a couple of trees off to the side of the lot that we didn't think were ours. We thought they belonged to our neighbors. After our landscapers had left, we came to realize that these trees were actually on our property, and they too were pear trees. But they were in rough shape, and they bore no fruit. After a year or so, we decided that the unsightly trees off to the side of the property needed to be trimmed up as well. So we had someone come cut away one tree that was pretty well dead and prune the other. The next year, this pear tree that they had worked on gave an incredible harvest of pears. The fact that it was pruned up freed it to do something that it hadn't done for many years, which was to provide beautiful fruit. This was a lesson for me in the value of pruning. Gospel passages like this one and others like it speak to the value of pruning, but I never fully understood it when I lived in Rochester. Now that I'm out in the country, it makes a whole lot more sense to me. All of us have a need to prune things in our lives. Pruning allows us to spur new growth that we couldn't have otherwise experienced. But pruning can be tough because we have to stop doing something that we may have enjoyed or that may have been quite fruitful in years past, and that can be very hard to let go. From the religious perspective, pruning can be very difficult at times. Any of you who have worked at a parish know that it's hard to let go of things that aren't working anymore, but that it's necessary to free up resources for the things that are working, or for the things that might work down the road. That Tuesday evening quilting club that was a big hit in the 90s, well, now there are only 2 regulars, and some nights no one shows. Should we really be booking the social hall for them every Tuesday when we could be doing other things that would attract a lot more people? And the fact that they're there means that someone from the staff has to stay late and lock up after them. Certainly the thought of telling Betty, their leader for the past 30 years, that the church can no longer let them use the hall on Tuesday nights isn't a fun thought. It would send shivers up poor Betty's spine. but the pruning needs to happen if the church is to fulfill its mission of making disciples. On a personal level, as we grow and mature in our faith, we too need to prune in order to be more fruitful. Am I just reciting prayers in rote fashion that I learned from Sister Mary Frances in the 3rd grade without really growing from them? Perhaps it's time to drop those prayers and to make room for some more spontaneous prayer with Jesus, opening your heart to Him and listening to what He has to say back. Am I falling asleep during my rosary that I pray every night before bedtime? Well, perhaps it's time to rethink what really helps me grow in my faith and what's more of a habit that needs to be pruned. The church herself is in need of pruning as the years go by. What we think of as church today is in many ways different than what the church was like 100 or 200 or 500 years ago. Now, the fundamentals of the faith, they remain the same through all time, and they are embodied in our doctrines. But the details change as society grows and changes. There was a time when we had so many priests that they could closely lead and monitor the activities of most things going on in the church. There could be a priest around to kick off every activity and every committee with a prayer. But we don't have enough of them now. They need to prune away many of the things that they are no longer able to do. And the laity needs to be better utilized in bringing their gifts forward to help the church continue to be on mission. And as the number of priests declines and their collective ability to draw people to the faith declines with it, we need to find ways of reaching out to people in areas outside of the 4 walls of the church so that we can continue to be on mission. And the best place to do that is in the workplace. Our priests simply don't have the ability to impact that world, but our laity do. And, speaking of business, we who work in the secular world have pretty much come to accept the concept of pruning, whether we like it or not. How many times have you heard, as I have heard many times over the years, that your department is taking a manpower reduction of 5% or 10%, and that there will be no new hires to backfill? We all understand that this will drive a combination of taking on more work and pruning away some things that are no longer needed, or perhaps things that are still needed, but we have to drop because there's simply no one left to do them. Now, if a business can find a way to make such a reduction through early retirements and buyouts, well, it's possible to make the cut with minimal impact to the people. Yes, those people who remain employed will have to prune and will have to figure out ways to do more with less. But this is a far more humane approach compared to simply releasing people or laying them off with little or no hope of ever being called back. My experience has been that a manpower reduction, which is accomplished in a humane way, is far better accepted by those who leave the company as well as those who remain employed. As much as we may not like it, some amount of shakeup and turnover in an organization is good. It forces people to really consider more efficient and effective ways of doing their jobs that they probably would have never considered without a manpower reduction. This is essentially a pruning of an organization. But the key to compassionate pruning in an organization is that we need to start by respecting the dignity of every person in the workforce. They were all created in the image and likeness of God, and they deserve respect and support. This is the kind of thinking that drives an organization to prune away some of its workforce by offering early retirements and buyouts. Yes, there is a cost to doing business that way, but it's a cost that's incurred because there is appreciation for the dignity of each and every person in the workforce. And this keeps the workforce happier and more engaged. There's no way that I'm aware of to put a financial value on this, but it's a very real thing. Pruning is never easy, but it's necessary for making progress. This is true in an organizational sense, and it's also true on a personal level. But the key to successful pruning is found in the rest of today's gospel. Jesus tells us that we need to remain in Him as He remains in us. Without Him, we'll never bear fruit, no matter how much we prune away. Think about it. If you were to mistakenly cut the branch as you were pruning, the branch would no longer be connected to the vine and it would die. No amount of pruning will ever cause it to bear fruit. So in this Easter season, take some time to contemplate what you need to prune away in your life. But always remember that it's only through the vine, which is the risen Christ, that we are able to bear fruit once the pruning is done. Thanks for joining me for this week's UTG at Work podcast. I look forward to meeting again next week. In the meantime, I encourage you to boldly live your faith in the workplace in the week ahead. I'll pray for your success, and I ask that you pray for the success of this UTG at Work apostolate. If you want to learn more about us, please visit utgatwork.org. Now go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life.